Are we on the air?
Am I on the air?
You're on the air?
On the air 24/7. Your news talk giant, TNT.
And welcome back to the Patrick Henningsen Show with me, Basil Valentine. Today, Friday, the 19th of July, I'm delighted to say I'm joined on the line from Jerusalem by Mohamad Barakat, a Palestinian living in the city, pretty much under siege, even within the boundaries of 1948 Israel. That's my reading of the situation. Mohamad, would you say that that was fairly accurate?
Well, I'm living in Jerusalem, which is part of the occupied territories of 1967.
1967 Israel, in inverted commas, the occupied territories, but the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, even in East Jerusalem, which is supposed to be a UN protectorate or something, continues apace, does it not?
It is going on. I'm part of what we call it residents of East Jerusalem. It's the status that the Israelis have given us is different than as a citizen. We are a permanent residents of East Jerusalem. This is our status. We are carrying the Israeli ID card, which allows us to move in Israel. We can drive with the same Israeli license plates, but we can work in Israel without permits. But we are not allowed to go out of the border of Jerusalem to live out of it, because we will leave our status. So we have to prove to the Israeli side that you are always, your daily life concentrate inside the border of Jerusalem. Right. This is our type of life.
Right. Which is obviously a form of apartheid. It's, quite simply discrimination, outright racial, religious discrimination, call it what you like. It's absolutely abysmal, and I can only apologise on behalf of the British government for our decades of malfeasance towards your community, Mohamad. Now, of course, you're how far away from the horrors of Gaza? No more than about 40 or 50 miles, if I'm not wrong.
You're right. It's about 55 miles only, the distance between here and Gaza. And we are not allowed to go over there since since 2006. We have no chance to cross. You have to get a special permission from the Israeli side to cross to Gaza. So Gaza is completely different. I mean, the type of life is different than what we are having it in Jerusalem. Now, Israel, as a way to deal with us, they have divided us for several status. So we are part of what they call the permanent residents. The others are residents of the West Bank and Gaza, which they have no kinds of, we call it, rights in the Israeli parliament, because we are residents. So they don't consider us, because the people who are living in the West Bank and Gaza, before the Israelis withdraw from Gaza, they were living under Israeli military control. That's the system that they were controlling the people over there, because in that areas we have different type of what we call it of laws. We have an Israeli military law against the Palestinians and an Israeli civilian law against the Israeli settlers. So this is what we call it apartheid system.
It certainly is. And so am I right in saying you're not able to vote for candidates standing for the Knesset? You're
right. We are not allowed. We are not citizens of the states. So we don't have any representative in the Israeli Knesset as Palestinians under the control of Israel in East Jerusalem. They gave us the right to participate in what they call it the municipality elections in the Israeli local council of the municipality, which we never done that, because Israel have annexed East Jerusalem to be part of Israel after the war of 67 against international law. So for us, we still believe that the east part of Jerusalem is part of the occupied territories of 67. So we are not joining the Israeli municipality elections.
And what about the total population, the Palestinian population of East Jerusalem? Is it stable? We seem to see reports of people being turfed out of their houses by settlers, constantly trying to increase the size of their share of the land and the properties. People coming home to find the locks have been changed on their houses. Do you live in fear of ethnic cleansing yourself, Mohamad, or is the situation at least relatively stable?
In fact, yes, and somehow, because we in East Jerusalem, we are almost 38% of the population of Jerusalem as permanent residents, even though that we are not allowed to move to have more space to build. We are concentrated in 13% of the whole size of Jerusalem. And we mostly built our buildings, our houses without the permits from the municipality, which always have a demolition order against it. So we have several of those demolitions, which is happening mostly every week and every day sometimes. And there is some areas where they usually want us to move out of it because they consider it as a biblical sites and they want to go back to that biblical, areas and to build the parks, and they build sometimes of what we call it for the Israeli Jews, different sites for it. So we are always in fear that in any moment they could come to kick you out of your house and to demolish it. We have over 22,000 houses under what we call it demolition order from the Israeli side.
And are you also in one of the areas where they spray that foul-smelling skunk water in the streets just simply to intimidate, or is that elsewhere?
That's part. Sometimes it happened over there. But I was living in a neighborhood. It's called Sheikh Jarrah, which the Israeli considered as part of their property since the Ottoman era, and with the types of what we call it fake documents, they went to the court, and the judge in that court, they gave them the right to take over the Palestinians' houses. So they just kicked the Palestinian families out of their homes, and they took the keys from the some of them. They took the keys from the judge himself to take it as their own apartments or in their homes in Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. Some areas in Jerusalem, which is part of Israeli municipality, we're still getting our water from the Palestinian Water Authority from Ramallah. So we have less, distributing water system in our areas. And also we are linked to, the waste and sewage system, which we have built it by our, the neighbors themselves. We build it. And but of course we have to pay taxes to the Israeli municipality. Even we are not getting the water, or they are not the ones who are who have already built the sewage system and so on. But we have to pay them the taxes.
So even though they're not providing the services, you have to pay them as if they are.
Yes, sir. It happened to me personally that they asked me to pay over 7,700 shekels. That was about 6-7 years ago. And I went to their department and asked them, do you provide us with this system, with the water system? They said, no. With the sewage, they said, no. So how come you are getting these types of, money from us? They said, this is part of the law in Israel. Even we are not, providing you with these systems, but you have to pay the taxes for it. Because finally, we are living in Jerusalem and it's part of Israel. Yes.
Finally, Mohamad, I'm afraid, because we don't have a whole lot more time today. I gather that following the genocide in Gaza, Israel and particularly Jerusalem has seen a tremendous slump in tourism, and the traditional souvenir vendors of Jerusalem in particular have been very hard hit. This is one of the quietest summer seasons anybody's known of. Am I right in that? What's the overall mood of and economic activity?
You are 100% right. I am part of the tourism sector. I work as a guide, and since October 7th, I didn't have work up till today. We got less tourists since 7th of October. We have less than 10% of the tourists, which usually used to come to the country. So most of the souvenir shops have been closed since that time. Jerusalem, the old city, almost at 5 o'clock will be completely closed. There is nothing to do inside the old city. even Israel, the state of Israel, have lost a lot of income from the economics, sector because of the war itself. And one of the main, affected sector is the tourism sector. Yeah.
It would be nice to end on an optimistic note. It's very difficult to find one in the current climate. Suffice to say that global public opinion, quite rightly, of course, in support of international law, has turned firmly against Israel. And it's highly likely that the arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant will be issued within the next week or two, as well, of course, as the ongoing ICJ investigation. Are the Israelis aware to any extent of the way in which they're regarded by the rest of the world, the degree of opprobrium and sheer disgust at what they've done to Gaza?
Well, I don't think that the Israeli society is completely warned about that. They believe that they are the superior people. No one could bring them to courts. No one could give them decisions. No one could just, say anything about them because they are the chosen people of God. So no one could just come close to them. So they never talk about it. But I believe that they are inside themselves. They are horrified because of these types of resolutions which comes out, or the statements of the International, Court of Justice and the Criminal Court, the International Criminal Court. But they usually depend on the Americans and the Europeans to defend them. We have heard about what the Americans have said already, and they declared about that they will stop all these, orders of the Supreme Court, or from the Court of Justice, or the and the Criminal Court, and they don't care about it. They don't give a damn shit about these things. They believe that no one could touch them, and this is what is happening. Exactly, the Israeli society usually they don't think that there is anybody in the world could come and do any types of judgments against them. They are the ones who could do any judgments about the world, about anyone of the world, but not them to be in courts under the International Court of Justice.
Well, I hate to have to say it, but I think we're on something of a collision course, Mohamad. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll make sure that we're in touch here again, TNT, and have you on again very soon. Thank you, Mohamad Barakat from Jerusalem.
You are most welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
We're going to take a very short break for the headlines now, and when we come back, I'll be joined by Philip Diaz, producer and director of I Am Gitmo, founder of Cinema Libre. We'll be right back after the short break.
Why not give TNT Radio a follow? We're on all major social platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gab, and Getter. Help us get the word out as we cover the biggest topics of our time right here on today's News Talk. TNT Radio. TNT Radio.